I really like the only fight he lost in the WC was against Chad Mendez, and Chad Mendez is one of the better 145s right now. So no skin off that. No, that's not a bad thing to lose to him. Eric Koch, I think his last 2 fights have ended in submission, but he had his last one was a head kick, but the other ones were submissions. So he's a good submission kid. I'm gonna go with Rafael Assunção. I think the only guy to sub him was Uriah Faber, but he did. So I think Eric Koch is gonna use his hands, and then because Rafael Assunção is kind of a smaller 145, and Eric Koch is taller and he's younger, and I think maybe he'll light him up a little bit, and then he'll sub him with a triangle. I'm gonna go first round. I really like anybody from the Duke Rufus, and Eric Koch is one of the better guys, so I'm gonna go. He's gonna sub Assunção with a triangle first round. Our next bout is a bantamweight bout, 135. Joseph Benavidez versus Ian Loveland. Ian Loveland's a pretty good competitor. I haven't seen too many of his fights, but we all know Joseph Benavidez. And he's team alpha male, one of the best 135ers. His fight against Miguel Torres was one of my favorite fights. What he did to Miguel Torres was domination, so that was pretty cool. Benavidez did lose a fight against Dominic Cruz for the championship, but that's nothing either too. So I think Joseph Benavidez, he's gonna wrestle Ian Loveland, take him down at will, hold him down. I'm gonna go Benavidez with the decision. All right, our next 2 fights are gonna be on Facebook. So once again, go to UFC's Facebook and then click you like them, and then there'll be a video tab on the side. Click to live video once the fights start. And you can watch them live on Facebook. And it's pretty good quality, too. I haven't been let down. My computer doesn't even have sound, so I'm able to watch them, though, still. And it's still really cool. So, our first bout for our Facebook fights is a lightweight bout versus Kurt Pellegrino versus Gleison Tibau. Gleison Tibau, I saw him fight at the UFC Fight Night in Austin against Jim Miller. And, dude, Gleison Tibau is huge for 155. I never think he's going to make weight when he steps on the scale, but he does. But Kurt Pellegrino is a really tough competitor. It's in Kurt Pellegrino's backyard. He's like a New Jersey guy, I think. So, I think Kurt Pellegrino is going to use a lot of his stand-up, but he's also going to maybe hold him down in submissions. I know Gleison Tibau, he's tough. But I think Pellegrino will pull off the decision. I don't see him subbing Tibau, but I do see him taking the decision. Maybe even Tibau will get around, but I see Kurt Pellegrino closing the gap and winning the decision. All right, our next bout, welterweight bout. I'm really excited about this one. Ricardo Almeida versus Mike Pyle. Ricardo Almeida is one of my favorite fighters. I just really like his style. He did lose to Matt Hughes, and his last fight, I think it was TJ Grant. It wasn't that exciting, but I really like Ricardo Almeida. I think since he went to 170, he's a lot better. Versus Mike Pyle, though, and Mike Pyle's on a roll lately, but Mike Pyle, he's been subbed before. He did beat John Hathaway. I don't know what that really means. Sometimes, I know John Hathaway beat Diego Sanchez, but other than that, really, what has he done? He had a split with Rick Story too, I guess. But Mike Pyle's really good. I think, yeah. So we'll see what happens, but I see Ricardo Almeida maybe subbing Mike Pyle with the rear naked choke, 2nd or 3rd round. I think Ricardo's just going to be a little bit bigger than Mike Pyle, and Mike Pyle, he's going to try his wrestling, but I think Ricardo will take the back and in Mike Pyle's night. I really like them both, but I'm going to go with Almeida with the RNC, the 2nd or 3rd round. All right, our next one is our preliminary card on Spike. The first one is a lightweight bout. Edson Barbosa versus Anthony Njokuani. This is a striker's dream bout. They'll probably wrestle now. But Barbosa's last fight against like Rick Lowell, I think it was, he kicked the shit out of his legs. And that was awesome. But Anthony Njokuani, he has his knockout over Hordesky, and he's a knockout. He got knocked out, not his last fight, but in the WC, but against Jiu-Jitsu, and he got knocked out. But I think this is going to just be striking, boom, 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 boom. And they're just going to trade, and I think Anthony Njokuani is going to get the better of those trades with the decision win. I don't see either of these guys knocking each other out. Even though Anthony Njokuani's been knocked out, I don't see, unless Barbosa pulls off a sub maybe, because we know Anthony Njokuani is not the best sub defender. But I see it just staying on its feet most of the time, and Anthony Njokuani winning the strikes. He's a little bit longer and a little bit taller, so I think the reach will play the factor in that fight. So I think Anthony Njokuani is going to win the decision. Our next bout on Spike TV is a light heavyweight bout. Louise Kane versus Elliot Marshall. The funny thing is both of these guys have been cut by the UFC, and I think Louise Kane was supposed to fight Carlos Vamola, so they brought Louise Kane back because he lost his last 2 or 3. I know he lost to Nogueira, Little Nog, and then he lost to Diabate, so he got cut. Then they brought him back to fight Vamola, but then Vamola got injured, so they brought Elliot Marshall, who got cut back. I just don't know about this one, especially being the one right before the headliner, or before the main card. But Louise Kane's known for striking. Elliot Marshall's known for being really boring. But so I see that's probably what's going to happen. That's what's kind of depressing about it. It's the fight before the main card. It might kind of take things away from the main card. But I think we'll be okay. But I think Elliot Marshall will win the decision against Louise Kane. It'll be, he'll just wrestle him and stuff like that. Maybe use a little bit of his boxing. Louise Kane isn't what he used to be, I guess. I don't think he was that great on feet, though. He gets a little heavy-handed, so... but I see Elliot Marshall grinding out the decision with this one. All right, our main card for UFC 128. Our first bout is a heavyweight bout. Mirko Cro Cop versus Brendan Schaub. Brendan Schaub, I think he beat Chris Tucker, and he beat somebody else. Who was that? Gabriel Gonzaga. Yeah, that fight wasn't that exciting. And then Chris Tucker and Chase Groenley. He did get knocked out by Roy Nelson. I really liked that knockout. That was one of my favorite knockouts. Roy Nelson knocked him out, and Brendan Schaub was on. He did not know. I mean, his eyes were like lit. So that was pretty cool. Mirko, it just depends on what Cro Cop shows up. But since we're all still hoping that one Cro Cop shows up, I'm gonna go with Cro Cop with the KO. Second round, maybe Schaub will throw him around a little bit the first round, but then maybe Schaub will get maybe drop his hands a little bit, and Mirko will take advantage and KO Schaub second round. That's what we all still want to see. We still hold on to that, so I'm still going to hold on to that probably until Cro Cop's cut. I mean, I did pick Frank Mir only because, it was Frank Mir, but I see Cro Cop, KO, and Brendan Schaub second round. Our next bout is a middleweight bout. Nate Marquardt versus Dan Miller. Dan Miller was the first fight of the night versus Nick Catone. Sexyama, due to the stuff in Japan, the tsunamis and earthquakes. I don't know if he's stuck in Japan or just has obligations to... I mean, be that as it may, we understand. It's not like, even if he just needs to be with his family, that's fine. But... so Dan Miller is going to take his place. Dan Miller versus Nate Marquardt. Nate Marquardt lost his last fight against Yushin Okami. And then the questionable grease thing with Paul Harris. I don't think Nate Marquardt greased that fight. I was there. I didn't know what the fuck happened either until, they showed it a bunch of times. I had to come home and watch it to really understand what happened. But it was, I don't know. Nate Marquardt, he kind of holds back sometimes. And then Dan Miller doesn't. But Dan Miller doesn't get the win sometimes. So I see Nate Marquardt just being a little too big for Dan Miller. I really hope, I wouldn't be surprised if Dan Miller wins, but, that'll take a lot for Dan Miller to push through. And I see Nate Marquardt just eking out a decision against Dan Miller. Our next one's a lightweight bout. Jim Miller, Dan Miller's, I think it's his younger brother or older brother. Well, they're brothers. Dan Miller's in the middleweight. Jim Miller's in the lightweight. Jim Miller versus Kamal Shalorus. Kamal Shalorus is really... he's got really heavy hands, and he goes balls to the walls. If you're not careful, he will knock you out. But he's not going to knock out Jim Miller. Jim Miller is one of the, his only 2 losses in his career are against Frankie Edgar and Gray Maynard, and they're fighting for the lightweight title. And he really wants to challenge that lightweight belt. I don't blame him, but Kamal Shalorus, I don't know. I just see this ending funky. I just see Kamal Shalorus getting the decision, but it'll be a controversial decision, I think. I think Kamal Shalorus will get like the split decision, but Jim Miller will probably win the rounds. You know what I mean? Like win 2 of the rounds. But I see controversy. I don't know what it is about Shalorus, the way he fights. It's not like it's Leonard Garcia or something, but I just see the judges favoring more than Jim Miller, which is unfortunate because we're in Jim Miller's backyard and Jim Miller is one of the great fighters. But I see Jim Miller winning rounds, but I see Kamal Shalorus with his hand raised and maybe some controversy. So, you know, we can't have a card these days without some controversy, right? So, I see Kamal Shalarus getting the decision, and there being a lot of controversy behind it. All right, our co-main event is a bantamweight bout, 135 at the co-main event. How about that? That's the shit. Uriah Faber, the California kid, versus Eddie Wineland. Everybody loves Uriah Faber. I love Uriah Faber. Everybody loves Uriah Faber. I mean, you know, he's a great fighter. I was at WC48. I saw him fight Jose Aldo. I did pick Aldo, but Faber, he's a tough bastard. He's a tough little bastard. And now he's in the 135 division where he's going to eat these fools alive. Okay? I don't know. And Eddie Wineland, dude, all of his fights are exciting. I've never seen a boring fight with Eddie Wineland. And he's got heavy, heavy hands, but Uriah Faber is going to shut Eddie Wineland down. I think he's going to choke him out second round. You know, maybe Eddie Wineland will buckle Faber's knees a little bit, but he will back off. You know, I see Faber, don't making this mistakes like he made against Mike Brown or something like that. And, you know, Jose Aldo couldn't even knock him out. I mean, he kicked his legs out, but, you know. And I see Eddie Wineland trying, you know, it'll be a good fight. I think it'll be a good fight, but I see Faber subbing Eddie Wineland with the rear naked choke in the second round. And, you know, Uriah Faber will move on to bigger, better things, maybe challenge the title against Dominic Cruz, be on tough, all that great stuff. And he will be the face of the 135 division, I think. Dominic Cruz is a great fighter, and I would love to see that rematch because, you know, Uriah subbed him pretty quick, and now Dominic Cruz is like fucking Muhammad Ali or something. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I see Uriah Faber subbing Eddie Wineland second round, rear naked choke. Might look like a lot like the Mizugaki choke out. I don't think Wineland will tap. I think he'll go out, and Uriah Faber will win. Choke him out. All right. Main event. Light heavyweight championship. Mauricio Shogun Rua versus Jon Jones. It was originally supposed to be Shogun Rua versus Rashad Evans. Rashad Evans blows out his knee. Jon Jones subs Ryan Bader. Joe Rogan in the ring asking him, does he want the title shot? He takes it. Of course. 6 weeks to practice for a 5-round fight. Shogun's been out for a year. Jon Jones has 4 fights in a year. So, you know, Shogun, his record is he's one of the better of the guys that have came from Pride. His only losses are against Machida, that controversial decision. Forrest Griffin, that rear naked choke in 2007. Mark Coleman, and that was from a broken arm. So, and then Babalu in 2003. So, since 2003, he's lost 3 times. And the people he's fought, Rampage, Little Nog, Alistair Overeem, Ricardo Arona, Cyril Debody, Kevin Randleman, Alistair Overeem again, KO's Alistair Overeem twice, Mark Coleman again, winning, Chuck Liddell winning, knocking out Machida. If Shogun puts his hands on Jon Jones, Jon Jones could be in for a serious wake-up call. But I just don't know. I think I'm going to buy into the hype. I'm going to buy into the Jon Jones hype. The light heavyweight belt does not stay in the person's hands. We've only had one defense, and that was Machida since Chuck lost it, I think. So, in any division, even in Strikeforce. So, I don't know. So, I'm buying into the Jon Jones hype. He's going to sub Shogun third round with the guillotine. Maybe similar kind of guillotine to Ryan Bader. I mean, I would love to see Shogun defend this belt, but, you know, that light heavyweight belt doesn't stay in these dudes' hands. It will not. I mean, I don't see... I see when Rashad fights Jon Jones, if he does, beating him. So, and it just moves from one... And then in Strikeforce, well, not Strikeforce anymore, but whatever. It's not... I mean, Dan Henderson maybe, but, you know, I'm just going to buy into the Jon Jones hype. I'm sorry. And he's going to sub Shogun, which, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Shogun lights him up. I mean, Alistair Overeem, you know, I mean, these are great fighters that Shogun has put to sleep. But Jon Jones has the reach, the wrestling, the fights, you know, the non-layoff. I don't know, but I'm just going to buy into the Jon Jones hype. He's going to guillotine Shogun third round. And that'll be our card, ladies and gentlemen. Should be a pretty exciting one. I'm pretty excited about this one. You know, seeing Uriah Faber and everybody else, it's just great. And then the Jon Jones and then Shogun, you know, too. It's all this is a really good card, and I hope that it does well. But that's it for sexy MMA picks, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the fights. Letters to CLEO.